From Krypton Radio and the creators of the Hangin web show, it's the legend of the Traveling Tardis. Look inside and behind the scenes to one of the most enduring and beloved sci-fi worlds. Step inside the door to a world that's bigger, brighter, and beyond imagination. As you become a part of the legend of the Traveling Tardis. And now, your host, Christian Basel.
Hello, Whovians. Welcome and you've landed on another episode of the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS radio show. I'm your host, Christian Basel. I hope you like the new theme that we just performed for you. This was designed and made by the CEO and creator of Krypton Radio himself, Gene Turbo, and I'm very, very excited that he's created for us. He sent it to me, and I was just geeking out. I was going like, yeah, this is going to be the new theme song. I love it. What do you guys think of the new theme song?
I think it sounds great.
Yeah, that sounded really good.
I'm just glad we have
I absolutely adore the theme. I love it. I love how many different layers are going on in there, and then it ends with the TARDIS and that nice big sound. So happy as a clam.
I am too there. And what better way to start off this show with an interview with actor Simon Fisher-Becker. You've known him on Doctor Who as Dorium Maldovar, and I don't want to mess that up again, never. But your favorite Blue Man Group man is here today, and we're interviewing him. But before we begin, I want to introduce everybody else who's with us. I have Miss Melanie Dean, artiste Melanie Dean from Pieces of Melee. And that's the part where you come in and say something really corny or cool, Melanie, and it's probably not going to happen in the next second. She's probably having some technical issues there. So I'm going to skip Melanie. And I'm going to go to one of our favorite cosplayers, Song Swan Cosplay herself, Jessica Womack. Hi, Jessica. How you doing?
Hey, doing well. Staying warm.
Good. Is Melanie back? No, she's not. She's in the great beyond. And then we're going to our next panelist, Neisha Mulchan from Diversely Geek. How you doing, Neisha?
Why, hello, everyone. It's an honor to be here.
And we're here with Simon Fisher-Becker. At first, we're going to the news with Who Knew News with Sage Ia. Sage, let's go. Since Melanie's not here, can we talk about her now?
No, we can't talk about her, but we can talk about love and monsters.
Something fell, and as a consummate professional, I went on mute. Okay. Sorry, Sage.
That's okay. See, that's how Melanie's good. Love and monsters. For all we know, a monster decided to go ahead and spill all of the things over at Melanie's house and knock them all onto the floor.
It's a poltergeist.
See?
Or possibly a cat.
That's
it's
exactly.
sci-fi and unpredictable.
That could happen, but Oddverse Books have released the latest in their series of the Black Archive books, and they are looking in detail at the making of the 10th Doctor Who story, Love and Monsters.
Oh. Did anybody actually like that episode?
Somebody did.
They might be attempting to enhance the story.
It's not one of my greatest stories. I know it's a Doctor Who light story. There's not much of it, and they were focusing on how people live in the world of the Doctor and how they can become victims themselves when the Doctor comes in touch with them. But I just thought it was the only thing I liked about it so much was the Electric Light Orchestra. So there you go. And then we actually have an episode with ELO in there. So I was happy about that. Simon, what did you think of Love and Monsters? What did you think of that episode?
It took me a bit by surprise, I have to say. I was a bit perplexed at first, but having seen it again, I'm not sure whether I like it or not. Is the absolute honest answer.
Okay. We get more information about that, Sage? about Love and Monsters?
Well, no, but because it's about the making of the 10th Doctor, that does lead me into my next piece of the Who Knew News, which is the 10th Doctor David Tennant has launched, it's a new podcast.
I know.
Right? So he's going to be interviewing some famous faces. It's called David Tennant Does a Podcast With ... Right? Mm-hmm. And he's going to talk to fellow stars. He's going to be talking to Ian McKellen. He's going to be talking to Jodie Whittaker. So David Tennant is going to be talking to all different kinds of folks about his podcast. David Tennant Does a Podcast With ...
I know. He's got Olivia Cole. He's got Ian McKellen, and I'm sure he's going to interview his wife at some point or another. But I don't care. I got Simon here.
Well, very interesting. He's also going to talk to Kristen Ritter, who is the guest star of Jessica Jones. So that's going to be fun.
Oh, so he's pulling all his buddies in.
Yes.
I got it.
So I'm sure Catherine Tate will end up at some point. Because they seem the best of friends.
Yeah.
That episode, if he does one with Tate or even Barrowman, that's going to end up going running to 3 episodes full.
Off the rails.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm here for it. I'm completely here for it.
All right. Sage, what else we got in the news today?
Let's see. The next piece of the news is from Bleeding Cool. And Doctor Who Series 12, obviously, everybody knows that the next season of the BBC Doctor Who is underway. It was posted by Ray Fluke, and they're all excited because Jodie Whittaker and everybody who is coming up for the 2020 series has started production. So hold on to your hats or your scarves, depending on how you look at it, and they are already in production. Woo!
I like it.
That's it. So hashtag Doctor Who is back. Look for that on Twitter.
I'm hoping for the date when they start, when they let us know when Doctor Who is back officially.
That's true. But also from Bleeding Cool, if everybody is dying to see something, they have released a new trailer for Scratchman, which is Tom Baker's new Doctor Who novel. But it actually has a trailer that has been released on BBC, and you can go ahead and check that out. So, and of course, it's written by none other than the 4th Doctor himself, and you can see the official book trailer with an audio sample. And of course, Tom Baker himself is reading that sample.
I did actually heard the trailer. Has anybody else heard the trailer? Because I was really excited when I heard it, and I was just like, but I want more. I want more of what's going on in the trailer.
I've actually begun the audiobook, and so far, because I'm nowhere near completing it, because I listened to it at work, it's good. It's incredible so far. So far, so good.
Mm-hmm. I want to hear it. What else we got in the news stage?
I'll say we are not the only people who want to know about Doctor Who. Chris Mosley has reported that there is the launch of Doctor Who in China.
Oh wow.
Yes. Isn't that pretty awesome?
Is that the first time in China?
They released a beautiful illustration of the TARDIS with Chinese characters. That's obviously spell out Doctor Who. And then part of that forms their huge new launch for Doctor Who in China, and it's supposed to be just phenomenal.
Wow, I never knew that they weren't in that market, that they weren't in China at all.
Exactly.
I thought there were. I was catching on. I didn't know there wasn't a fan base in China. Or I didn't know it was getting over there. So it's nice
it doesn't mean there wasn't a fan base in China. It's just now it's going to be official from the BBC.
That would be awesome.
Yes.
Not like I'm going to China to watch Doctor Who, but I'm glad they're going to get it finally. What is it taking, like 50 some odd years to get over there? Poor guys. Well, it's nice to know that they're going to be getting it out over there. What else do we have in the news stage?
That is all of our Who Knew News, and now it is on to you and Simon.
Alrighty. But without further ado, we got to pay some bills. So Simon, when we come back, we're going to be starting our interview. It's been that kind of day. It's been that kind of week. We're going to be starting our interview with actor Simon Fisher-Becker when we return to the Legend of the Traveling Tardis, wherever you're listening to us on iHeart, iTunes, everywhere across the Whoniverse. keep listening and keep being part of the legend.
Famous Faces and Funnies in Melbourne, Florida is leading the way in pop culture fun. From comic books and graphic novels to Funko Pops and collector's items, Famous Faces and Funnies has it all. Rick Shea and the professional team at Famous Faces and Funnies are friendly and knowledgeable. Whether you're looking for toys, props, collector treasures, or a new comic book, Famous Faces and Funnies is your one-stop shop. To find Famous Faces and Funnies on Facebook and Twitter, just type at FFF Comics.
Grab some altitude and adventure together at Pound the Grape. It's all about an adventure above the crowd. There's always something different happening there, from painting to food pairings to dancing. But one thing's rock solid, people sharing incredible wines from around the world. And if that's not what puts Lift under your wing, try their craft beer. Grab some altitude and adventure at Pound the Grape. Find more at poundthegrape.com. Poundthegrape.com. Pour a glass of adventure.
Every year, tens of millions of people flock to Florida for its sunny beaches and world-famous tourist attractions. Most never learn about the strange and unusual locations just off the beaten path. From the UFOs of Gulf Breeze to Robert the Haunted Doll in Key West, learn about the myths, monsters, and legends from the dark side of the Sunshine State with author Mark Muncy and illustrator Carrie Schultz in their books Eerie Florida and Freaky Florida from the History Press. Find them at eerieflorida.com or wherever books are sold.
9 distress signals all coming from the same planet.
I should have left.
And why haven't you?
The battle. You gave me my destiny.
Devarius has lost everything. His parents murdered, his sister kidnapped, and the new village he called home destroyed. The Dragonia Empire is out of control, destroying anything and everything in their path, searching for the resistance. Devarius is left with no choice but to find the resistance, join them, and hope he can help them defeat the Dragonia Empire once and for all to bring peace to the land of Keldroga. Dragonia, Rise of the Wyverns, Dragonia Empire Volume 1.
And welcome back to the Legend of the Traveling Tardis radio show. My name's Christian Basel, wherever you're listening to us on Krypton Radio, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spreaker, Spotify, wherever you're listening to us. Thank you for continuing to listen to us and becoming part of the legend. I got my friends Melanie Dean, I've got my friends Neisha Mulchan, and I've got my friend Jessica Womack. We're all here to talk about Simon Fisher-Becker. How you doing, Simon? Welcome to the show.
Hello. Yes, thank you for asking me back.
Asking you back, we had a great time when we did the talk with Tom about Tom Baker. Yeah. It was about 2 episodes back, folks. For those of you who may be just joining us, Simon was kind enough to come on. We were going to do the interview earlier, but he said, no, I want to do the Tom Baker special. And I'm like, okay, yeah, it was for his 85th birthday. So glad to have you back.
I was very pleased to be part of that, and it was such a good show.
Yes, it was. And Simon, thank you so much for coming back and being part of that show. For those of you who may not be familiar with Simon's work, he was Dorium Maldovar. Did I say that right?
Yes, that's right. That time, yes.
He was Dorium Maldovar in series 5 and 6 of Doctor Who. A Good Man Goes to War. If you remember, he was the Blue Gentleman. I call you Blue Man Group every time I come back when I had to explain it to friends, and I feel bad doing that because that's a horrible.
It's all right. I've been called worse.
No. But when I describe it to friends, that's the way I have to do it. I go, he's my favorite Blue Man Group on Doctor Who.
Yes, to be honest, most people who are introduced to me look at me because they think they don't know who I am or they can't recognise me. And all you have to say is either Blue Man in Doctor Who or Head in the Box.
There you go.
Yeah, so that's all you have to say.
And I want to know where you ended up, where the monks put you, because that's some good Wi-Fi, and I need to go down in there and just spend time with you.
Excellent Wi-Fi, yes.
So, Simon, just tell us a little bit about your background, where you started, how did the acting bug bite you, and where did it all begin?
Where did it begin? I never thought of actually being a professional actor at all. I was at school and I was thinking I was going to be a music and biology teacher because those were the only 2 subjects I was any good at. But the music department joined the drama department in 1977. How about that? Put on a production of Oliver, and I was informed that I was to play Mr. Bumble, and which was quite a feat because I'm a bass baritone and Mr. Bumble's a tenor. And then from then I got praised for my performances in the school production. So that's how I got the bug. When I left school, I went straight into the civil service. They made me redundant. I had a bag of money, so I decided to go for a postgraduate drama course, and that's when it all started. So I officially started in 19 and I got my equity card 2 years later. British Equity Card was the union that actors had to join. I think you have a similar thing called SAG. Is that right in America?
Yes, the Screen Actors.
Yes.
The Screen Actors Guild. And that was it. And it was a long trudge. It was very difficult. There was no internet, no laptops, no mobile phones. When I think back, I wonder how I managed it. But I did manage it, and I put it in an autobiography called My Dalek Has a Puncture. So that's my plug of the day. And if you want to know more, you just grab the books. You can get them from Fantastic Books Publishing, and they come in all forms: ebooks, audiobooks, paperback, hardback. There you go. That's my picture. I won't do it again.
Well, you did. There were two performances of My Dalek Has a Puncture. One, and there was like the sequel, My Dalek Has Another Puncture or something
My
like
Dalek Has Another Puncture, and then the third is a trilogy. The third one is Let Zygons Be Zygons.
Be Zygons. I remember those three.
Yeah, and they're coming out hopefully this year in book form.
Now, it's funny as you mentioned Oliver, because I remember back when I started in theater for the long career I had, I was actually 5 different characters in Oliver. Yes. And the biggest problem I had with Oliver was that I had 5 different characters, so I had to change clothing 5 different times, and modest I was not backstage at all.
Well, you can't. I mean, I have similar experience when I do pantomime. Because you in the States are new to pantomime, are you? Or do you know what it is?
Well, for folks who may not be familiar with it, go ahead and give a brief.
It's a European stage production telling the story of fairy tales or whatever, and all the characters are upside down. The lead female is often played by a male. The lead male is often played by a female, and it's all full of corny jokes.
It's like a Monty Python skit.
Yes, a sort of Monty Python thing. And the lead female is often called a dame, or in Cinderella, they're the ugly sisters. And the dame and the ugly sisters, in theory, every time they make an entrance on stage, they have to have a new frock. So there are, 7, 8, 9, 10 changes in any one show. So as you say, modesty can't come into it, really. It's just whip them off and put them back on, sort of thing. So that's where Velcro's comes in very nice.
And stagehands.
And stagehands, and it is, and to be honest, once you've rehearsed it properly, it does become a bit like a ballet choreography. Because sometimes you just have the amount of music ending a song to walk off, and the amount of music starting a song to walk back on in a different frock. Yeah. And people say that's impossible, you're exaggerating, but actually it does work and it does happen, and it's absolute fun if exhausting. Yes, but there we go. I've done 25 pantos now. And it don't keep a day too long.
Now,
sorry, it's approaching midnight here, so you
no, it's okay.
Start.
Nobody knows this. We're recording in Florida, but our good friend Simon's over there in the UK, and we kind of torture him because it's almost going into midnight over here. It's almost like dinner time for us. And anytime we do an interview with anybody from the UK, I feel bad for them. But I believe Sophie gave us a hard time, and she actually said, set the time frame, and I forgot, but it was like we had to wake up at 3 a.m. when I did an interview with her. I'm like, oh God, come on, Sophie, why?
Yes. Why?
But I don't blame it there. But you also started a company called the Tilt Yard Theater Company. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh my gosh, you've been doing your homework.
I know you.
And it started because I was a chair of a actors and writers group. Mm-hmm. It was really designed for writers to have an early draft of a project and listen to it performed by professional actors. Very valuable experience for both the actors and the writers. It was really good fun. And one of the people there, called Paddy Gormley, asked if he could write me a play, or write me a one-man show. Mm-hmm. And he did, and it was called Hamlet's Tragedy of a Fat Man. The basic concept of the story is that it turns out that the main character, i.e. me, assisted my father at the end of his life and had terrible guilt. And through it you have not only Paddy Gormley's excellent writing, but also bits and pieces from Hamlet. And so to produce it, I had to think of a company name. And also a very good friend of mine called Clive Ward. He had a one-man show based on Albert Camus' play The Fall. So we did it as a double-header, and we took it in turns to be first or second. And that way, although we were doing one-man shows, we were together when we were travelling around. So we weren't just by ourselves all the time. So it was really good fun. And we had to think of a name for a sort of, because everywhere we wanted to go, they said, well, you must have a production name. And I don't know how we found it, but we came up with Tilt Yard. And it was used. And we were very, very lucky because we both did them as exercises, really, more than to actually put them seriously on as a tour. But because the idea of standing up on stage totally by myself frightened me to death. But now I've done it. Mm-hmm. And now, of course, I do it with my other shows, my Dalek shows. I recommend to any performer, do a one-man show as soon as possible, because it will teach you a lot about yourself. You'll become a better performer. You'll have more confidence. And so that's sort of how it started, really. So you asked about how we came up with Tilt Yard. That's the answer. I hope it works for you.
No, it sounds like you because I'm thinking about those yard-long beverages that they have, those beer mugs or whatever. That's what came to mind real fast. I'm like, oh, everything is about alcohol.
Yes, I don't think it actually had anything to do with alcohol at all. I think it was more to do with jousting sticks.
Oh, really?
I think that's it. I should know more, having chosen it as a name. It just sounded good, really. I think a tilt yard is a yard where jousting sticks were placed. But I could be completely wrong. I'm sure somebody will tell me I'm a fool.
People will go on the internet now from their podcast and start researching it. So let us know.
But the best thing that happened from that exercise was that, having gone into it just, quote, as an exercise for us both, the education stream picked up on it. And we both ended up travelling around at small theatres where school parties came and filled the auditorium. And so on and off for 2 years, we had quite solid work from it. So you never know. Yeah.
Oh, Simon, looking on little projects and stuff that you've been working on, and I saw one that was an upcoming movie that you're going to be portraying Alfred Hitchcock. Now, I know it's in post-production, so I don't know what all you could tell us about the film, but what kind of research did you do for that role?
Well, a confession. Not very much, mainly because it was quite a quick casting. I think the director was Chris Wise. I think it was. It was actually done some time ago, but it's still in production now. I had played Alfred Hitchcock for another production many years before, so to fall into his persona was quite easy. And at that time, I did do a bit of research. I listened to interviews mainly and watched him in interviews. So that's helped get the characterization. And the film is called The Great Director, and it's a simple story structure line in that there's this young actor wanting to produce his first, a young director wanting to produce his first major film, and it's all going wrong for him. No. And so he starts dreaming conversations with his heroes, one of which is Alfred Hitchcock. So that's how I came in then, as the ghost of Alfred Hitchcock. And and literally I was called, which day was it? Yes, I was called one day just to go in. I found out before I even got home that I was offered the role. I then had to go to America. I then had to go to America to do some talks and a convention. And then when I got off the plane from that, I had to go and get wardrobe fitting and my haircut. And then the following day we filmed it. That was it. Yeah, so that was...
You barely had any time to digest that script.
No. Well, that's another story. But I'll tell you once the film's out.
Okay.
about the script, because I don't want it all to be cut out because they felt I've misspoke.
Oh.
Script.
Fair enough.
The script was good fun. It was good fun. Absolutely delightful. So when it's out, we must have another conversation.
Okay. Absolutely.
But hold that thought there, Simon. When we return, there's more. There's going to be more talk with Simon Fisher-Becker, better known as Dorium Maldovar, from the new rebooted Doctor Who series, our favorite Blue Man group, when we return to the Legend of the Traveling Tardis radio show. Stay tuned and continue to become part of the legend.
Joanne Fisher's The Spanish Doll. Secrets in Italy? Oh yes. Her beauty strikes him like a thunderbolt sent by the goddess Venus. When Fiore is given a peculiar gift, a Spanish doll, she is thrown into a whirlwind of entangled passion, money, secrets, and love. Get swept away today by Hangin with Web Show featured author Joanne Fisher's The Spanish Doll. Available now on Amazon.com.
From some of today's best-selling, award-winning authors comes 22 page-turning tales, Cursed Lands.
Cursed Lands will lead you through one doomed world after another in a haunting dystopian urban fantasy.
Join the courageous as they battle for survival across worlds where fae, vampires, angels, witches, and more roam freely.
Cursed Lands is coming soon on Apple Books, Kobo, and Nook.
Pre-order your copy for just 99 cents today.
This is Cosplayer Michael with the Hangin with Web Show. I want to tell you about my friends at Embellis Effects in Orlando, Florida. They've got makeup, costumes, and props for all of your costume needs. And the team at Embellis Effects is helpful and friendly. Embellis Effects is one of my favorite places, and I know it will be yours too. I'll see you there. Or go to embelliseffects.com. And remember, cosplay is for everyone.
Now on Amazon.com. War Calls, Love Cries, a Civil War novel by Mark Berry. Isaac Wells is an innocent farm boy living in upstate New York. His dreams are shattered by a treacherous brother and the onset of a devastating civil war. War Calls and Love Cries is a fast-moving historical narrative. It is an emotional roller coaster ride and a riveting must-read book that you will think about and talk about for a long time to come. War Calls, Love Cries is the kind of book you will cherish for a lifetime. On Amazon.com today.
And welcome back to the Legend of the Traveling Tardis radio show. I'm Christian Basel, your host inside my Traveling Tardis there, folks. We're continuing our interview with Simon Fisher-Becker, a very talented actor. I'm here with Melanie, I'm here with Neisha, and I'm here with Jessica as our panelists. And I do want to talk more about your role in Doctor Who and being my favorite Blue Man guy. However, I want to go back a little bit because you started in a big well, at least the franchise has come huge. Mm-hmm. You were in a Harry Potter movie. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, that was the year 2000, I think it was. I was called in for an interview, an audition for Harry Potter to play the ghosts of Hufflepuff House. And in the end, there were 20 of us, and we were whittled down to 3. But the 3 were seen after 4 interviews. So, of course, by then we were assuming that the ghosts were going to have a more substantial role than they actually did in the end.
Oh, okay.
And we were contracted for the first 4 films, and we did so much. I'm going to say 2 things: Death Day Party and Peeves the Poltergeist. Now, those who only know Harry Potter by the movies will have no idea what I'm talking about. Only those who've read the books will know what I mean by Peeves and the Death Day Party. But none of it was used, and poor Rick Mail, who was Peeves, was cut out altogether. And I'm lucky, as the ghost of Hufflepuff House, to appear extremely briefly.
Wait a minute, they cut out Rick? Are you serious? Why? Yes. Why would you do that?
I have no idea.
That's a sin.
No idea.
One of the most characters in the storyline was Peeves. It's crazy that it was cut.
Because Peeves was so fun.
An integral part. I mean, it's like telling the story of from the Bible and cutting out, I don't know, John the Baptist, maybe. Do you know what I mean? It's completely daft. Anyway, they may appear sometime in some box set in 20 years' time. You never know. So it was very disappointing, but I can joke about it now. And I just say to drama students when they talk to me that my name in the credits is on screen longer than I am. And you just got to put up with it because you have no control. It's an example, actors, particularly with television and film, unless you're a big, big name, have no control over the editors or the producers or anything. You just have to turn up, do what's asked of you, do it as well as you can, don't be a prat, and then enjoy the money when it comes along. And it is very often when. It's, sometimes you can wait, 3 or 4 months for your money, which has not yet been satisfactorily explained to me why. But there you go. But then on the other side of the coin, along came Doctor Who 10 years later. Yeah. And I think, I could be wrong, but I think at the very minimum, 95% of what we did is kept in. So I'm very lucky because Dorium's such a multifaceted character, and he can either be very funny or quite sinister. You can put together all the scenes that they've kept for Doctor Who and make a mini demo tape, and that shows, without blowing my trumpet too loudly, it can show how versatile I can be. And that's helped tremendously subsequently, because since Doctor Who, I don't have to audition as often. I still have to, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying everybody thinks of me instantly, but it's nice not having to audition, to be honest.
Now, do you think that's... Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go.
Oh, do you think that's just the difference between film and television, of the fact that you did keep so much of what you filmed in Doctor Who, whereas film, it's hit or miss of what they're going to keep and cut out and everything, because film tends to have a larger budget? Do you think that might play a part in that?
I think it could, but a lot of what we did as the Ghost was generic. And we knew that. It meant that they could just put us in any scene. And what we did and said wouldn't affect any scene. Because it was just generic gestures or comments. The specifics, like the Death Day Party, of course, they'd have to be a completely different scene. But I would agree with television and with some shows, the turnaround is so quick that they can't afford the time to take several hundred takes. And if they're happy, they just keep it. And I have to say, I found the scripts for Doctor Who in the series I was in were excellent, particularly for Dorium, and easy to learn, or easier, I shall say, to learn, though they could be a bit of a tongue-tied situation every now and then. But yes, I would agree generally in television, they know exactly what they want. They've already done the honing before they start filming. I would agree with that.
Simon, do you feel like you identified with Dorian, or do you have a character that you really feel felt very akin to or connected to?
Did I identify with Dorium? I suppose there must have been, although it would have been subconscious, certain elements of my own personality in it. I think deep down, I know the only time I had to think about a backstory and things was when I was at home and on the journey to Cardiff to film it. There was no time really to discuss it in any depth with anyone because they were just keen to get on and film. But I'd like to think that Dorium deep down is quite a decent chap, though he is a bit of a hard nut. So, for example, the Doctor sometimes has to do some questionable things, and he has a lot of angst over it. He gets on with it, and it does eventually, but you can see him struggling sometimes. Mm-hmm. Whereas Dorium, if it's the right thing to do, he just does it, despite how it looks.
Regarding... sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I reckon there's a bit of a schindler about Dorium. I think he would find a way of rescuing people or certain situations if he could.
He just reminds me of a friendly mobster.
I was going to say that.
Because he's got his hand in things, but he's like a friendly mobster.
Yeah, so there's a kindness to him in spite of himself. So he wants to appear more, angsty than really in the long run than he is. So, yeah, that's great. I'm glad that I feel like I read that then. Yay.
Yes. And the script, I have to say, the script for Dorium in particular, what I loved about it was with each episode, it was a bit more about Dorium. And so, of course, I personally wanted to continue with Dorium just to find out more. Plus, we need to know what Dorium's secret is. So, and it's very clear that Dorium's known the Doctor for a long time. But there we go. There's so much you can do.
Well, I think one of my favorite lines is when Captain Runaway asks you, "Do you think he's raising an army?" And you go, "You don't think he? Do you think he's not raising an army?" And I think
he's not.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way the chess pieces work with Dorium when he's moving around the play. He knows the field, and he tries to put out things. He puts his pawns out, and then he decides whether the queen or the king is going to start, ruling them, start taking place, things like that.
It's very interesting that you chose that scene to sort of make a comment on, because a lot of people say the scene with Dorium and Madame Vastra, is it?
Yes.
Yes, Madame. It is such a great scene, for which I thank people. And I enjoyed doing it, although I was terrified. Because Frances Barber, I knew from afar. I hadn't worked up with her up until then. So I was very, very frightened not to mess it up. But she was lovely, utterly delightful.
Oh, not Madame Vastra. That's Lizard Lady. I'm trying to think.
No, it's Madame
Kavarian.
Kavarian, yeah.
I told you it was a long time ago. I did.
No, that's fine.
It's all I can do to remember my shopping list today. So, yeah,
well,
Madame Kavarian.
Yeah.
Well, you have such an in-depth, as you said, there's so much they can do with Dorium. So do you personally have decisions that you made as an actor about that character that weren't necessarily written, but to everyone else, they're more secretive, that you have in your mind to create this character of personality traits or things that might not have obviously made it into the film since they weren't scripted, but that you have come up with as an actor to kind of support that and make him a full-bodied character?
Yeah, there's two or three things there. First of all, as I said, there wasn't much opportunity to have an in-depth conversation. So I tried to read between the lines and take on board some things which I knew from an early draft. For example, in an early draft, there's a mention of Dorium's mother. And she's a composer, and she, in fact, composed the Death Prayer.
Oh, yeah.
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 So that made me think: is Dorium a musician of some kind? And I sort of tried to visualize him with either a tuba or a piccolo.
Something of the upbringing.
But I plumped that he's probably a conductor. You know, sort of putting
yeah.
So that was a subconscious thing I had for Dorium. Already been told to think of Sidney Greenstreet, who's an English actor who did very well in America, and he played Signor Ferrari in Casablanca. So I knew exactly physically how to be for Dorium. And there are a couple of things. I'm trying to remember this. Peter Hoare, the director of A Good Man Goes to War, he did say to us all, if you've got any ideas, please run them by me. Give me. And he handed out his mobile number. But of course, none of us could get hold of him because he was so busy. So I sent him an email with just a few ideas. And one of the ideas was that when talking to Madame Cavarian, Dorium would appear to be distracted by counting money, is my idea, on things. And also, when a gun is pointed at him, he just tosses it away, pushes it away. And I sent the email, heard nothing at all. Then we came to film the scene, and the next thing I know, I'm sitting down, and a props man comes up and says, Dorium, here's your money. Right? And then somebody else said, and these two are going to be pointing the gun at you. So I thought, bloody hell, they read my email.
They took notes.
Nobody actually told me. So that I like to think that I added something there. And also, when it came to choosing the costume, I was at a costumier's, and they got a costume for me, and I was looking in the mirror. They asked me, what else do you think Dorium would have? And all I said was, I think he'd have a bit of bling. And so they brought another. They brought another box that had the rings and goodness knows what else. And out of one corner, I just saw this chain with one crest of a moon crest charm on it. And as I pulled it, rather like the magician's scarf, it came longer and longer. So I had about 3 yards of this chain, which had the crescent moon. And then, when we came to A Good Man Goes to War, we find the Moldavarian. The logo was the crescent of the moon, the moon crescent. So I'd like to think, although I'd like to think that was my influence on that because I chose the chain. But who knows?
Who knows? Hey, Simon, we're up against a hard break. We're going to come back, do a few commercials. When we come back, Jessica has a question for you, more about our favorite Blue Man from Doctor Who when we get back.
Murder by the Gods from author William G. Collins is available today. Murder by the Gods is a mystery thriller set in the glorious past of ancient Egypt. When the son of the Scorpion King suddenly collapses after receiving a mysterious threat from the god Seth, the prince is convinced it is the gods who are trying to kill his family. Murder by the Gods is filled with adventure and romance in a kingdom that would become known as the Land of the Pharaohs. Murder by the Gods from author William G. Collins is available on Amazon.com today.
From the imagination of author Kevin J. Kessler, the Rosinante dragons are no more. They have fallen into the obscurity of lore. Now warrior Valentine Beret and Seraphina, a magically gifted princess, are on a mission to save the world of Terra. Together they must face the Rosinante legacy and combat the greatest threat their world has ever known. In the end, who is stronger, the man or the dragon? Find out in Kevin J. Kessler's The Rosinante series on Amazon.com today.
Best-selling and award-winning author of true crime and crime fiction, Yvonne Mason is back with a brand new book, The Pink Canary, a book that delves into the life of a drag queen and a marvelous whodunit. You can find this and all of Yvonne's other works on Amazon.com or find Yvonne Mason on Facebook and Twitter.
He's gonna kill me.
Buy your copy of Pink Canary now.
The Rite of Wands one boy, one right, and a world of deadly secrets that could change the course of history forever. It's time for The Rite of Wands by Mackenzie Floor. When a horrible fate reveals itself during the Rite of Wands ceremony, Myrda must find a way to change his destiny. Forbidden from revealing the future, he is granted a wand and magical powers in order to save himself and those he loves. But Myrda is not the only one with secrets. The Rite of Wands by Mackenzie Floor, available on Amazon.com now.
And welcome back to the Legend of the Traveling Tardis radio show. We've got our guest interviewee, Simon Fisher-Becker, actor and best known as Dorium Maldovar. He's also been in a ton of other things, including the Harry Potter series. But before we get to Jessica's question, we're going to do something kind of new, a new segment to our show. This is our Legend of the Traveling Tardis radio show poll that we do kind of on a bi-daily basis on our Facebook page. And the question that was asked, have you yourself purchased any Doctor Who products or merchandise relating to the 13th Doctor herself? We had 280 people vote, and ladies, where do you think the votes, it was a yes or no question, where do you think the votes were predominantly? Do you think it was more of a yes or no?
Yes.
I think yes.
I know so many people who have bought stuff. Yeah.
Neisha, what do you think? Do you think people...
Yes. I think
more?
so, yeah.
Okay. Simon, do you think people bought 13 stuff more than did not buy 13 stuff?
Well, when I go around the convention circuit, I see lots of people with lots of Jodie Whittaker stuff, including her sonic screwdriver and her herself. So, and there's a lot of Jodie Whittaker cosplayers. Majority are men, which is very curious.
I noticed that too, cosplayers.
Yeah. So I'm going to say yes.
Okay. You guys would be all wrong, unfortunately.
Oh, my Lord.
What? So, 77 people have bought merchandise that is 13th Doctor related, whether it be Sonic Screwdriver, her Barbie doll, her shirt, all that. But 203 people have not bought 13 merchandise. That's an interesting take on that question. But
it is. I have to say, I'm surprised.
Yeah.
I thought it would probably be half and half. I think people are still trying to get into Jodie before they buy the merchandise. They're trying to, because there was criticism about her outfit, which I kind of jumped into the wagon too. And it was only because, this is what I thought, and the merchandise, her sonic screwdriver, people came out and said something about it, and I was like, oh God, no, I don't even want to think of it that way. So, but I think as we get more comfortable with her, I think stuff will start flying off the shelf. That's my hope for Jodie. So I think she'll start, when people start warming up to her, then they'll start digging with her. I was hoping that she would have a series through 2019, but I don't know if that's helping as matters as much. But anyway, Jessica, you had a question for Simon.
Yes. Well, now I've kind of got two going off of that poll. Simon, do you have a really fun piece of Doctor Who merchandise that you've bought for yourself?
I bought for myself? No, I did.
Given, I suppose.
Oh, I was handed. There's a Titan model of Dorium, little tiny body with a big blue head. That was given to me. The sweetest thing that was ever given to me was a little girl. She could have only been about 5 or 6, and she made it herself. And she made a Dorium box out of plasticine.
Oh.
So that was very sweet. On a personal basis, I bought a couple of sonic screwdrivers. I bought one for my husband for one Christmas present, and he brought me a brain cell.
What? What?
There are these. I'm trying to think what they're called.
The little plushie?
I think they're called giant microbes, and they're stuffed versions of different, and they're various diseases as well as other things. But he kindly gave me a brain cell. So when people tell me, how many, you're thick, you haven't got any brain cells, I could say, well, I have at least one. So,
wait. I got to ask, how long have you, and Tony, have you been married? How long have you guys been married?
Oh, because the law is different. We've been together 27 years.
Wow.
We went into a civil partnership, as it was then, in 2006, because it became legal in December 2005. And then we got the upgrade, as Tony says, about 4 years ago, January 2015. And what is very amusing is when we signed the paperwork for our marriage, it was all backdated to the date of our civil partnership.
Wow.
So Tony says we have a quantum marriage because we weren't married, but now we were.
It's in flux.
And it just highlights the complete nonsense of the whole argument, really.
Yeah.
But then, I mean...
congratulations.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, Tony
absolutely. Wonderful.
yeah. Well, I mean, 27 years ago, we made a commitment to each other, and it was, when they make it legal, we will get married. And, of course, 27 years ago, you had actually more chance of having a summer holiday on the moon. It wasn't on anyone's agenda at all 27 years ago. So that shows how things have moved along very quickly. And I know there are some people today who are still very upset at the idea of same-sex marriages. But I just go...
Yeah, exactly. Well, you mentioned the gift that Tony gave you, and it's kind of the same thing I was thinking in my mind because I've been wife forever, and occasionally she'll give me a gas card. She hates it when the gas light comes on my car. When that thing comes on, it is discussion like, why do you never fill up your gas tank?
Yeah.
And then she'll give me like a gift card or something like that just to remind me that I need to fill up my tank. So I thought, okay, Tony's making a prank now. There we go.
Yeah. Well, no, one thing talking about that, Tony always tells me never below a quarter of a tank because you never know the legitimacy of your gauge. Yeah, so which is quite correct. Really. But now there's so much technology in the car now.
Yeah.
My car, for example, tells me when I've got a flat, but not only tells me I have a flat, it tells me which tyre.
Oh.
And I think
mine says you're low.
Yeah. Yes, but that's a completely different conversation, really, isn't it? Exactly. So, but there we go. That's my brain cell. Yeah, it is fascinating, isn't it? How your other halves, they only want to be protective. Yeah. So.
Okay, I know Jessica or Melanie had a question. I wanted one of you two. Which one of you?
I had a question regarding Dorium's makeup, and more aptly, your time in the makeup chair. I used to actually work for like independent films and to help with makeup. So I know just the arduous task of having the actor having to wake up early in the morning and trying to make the truck as fun and as light as possible. Because you're just, you're a little guinea pig for however long. So my question was, how long for you did the makeup, it take for you? Or did you ever have did the truck and the crew kind of help keep things light, and or was it just you trying to sleep through the process?
For me, it was I was very. I wasn't Dan Starkey. He was in the chair for hours and hours hours. But for me, it was about 2 hours, from what I recall, for makeup and costume.
Okay.
And it was very straightforward because Dorium, they shaved my head and put on a barrier cream.
Mm-hmm.
And then they put the blue on, which was just a water-based body paint blue. Whatever make it was number 37. I could see this giant 37 on the bottle. And then they did blue nail polish paint, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A mascara on my bottom eyelid, which was very funny because it reacted with my eyes and then I made eyes water.
Oh no!
But subsequently, people say, "How is it you managed to get your eyes so glittering?" I said, "It's quite easy. Just stick a mascara brush on." So.
I just said your feckless charm right there.
Yeah. The worst part of the makeup was they put a fixing agent, which is like a hairspray, and it tasted vile, and it was extremely sticky, and it didn't work because you perspire from underneath. So then for the rest of the day, I had people keep on touching me up. So, but it was straightforward. As for keeping sort of morale at 6 o'clock in the morning, very often there might have been a script change. So whilst you're in the chair, you're trying to go through that. But, you know, we're all friendly people. And Doctor Who, because they've been together so long, they're a big, big family. So everything was absolutely fine. Really, it was fine and jolly, really.
Simon, I hate to do this. We've come to the end of our show, and I think we could keep talking for another 3 episodes here. And we want to welcome you back at any given time to promote whatever you need, whatever you want to do. We want to thank you for being. Our show is actually our first interview, but I don't want to be left out of what you've done for a lot of people. And you know what I'm going to be asking you in just a second there. The Trenzalore speech. But I just want.
Yes, okay.
I want to remind people, Sci-Fi Bartow next month. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Sage, that is February 16th at Sci-Fi Bartow in downtown Bartow. Tickets are free. Just show up, folks. There's no reason why you can't come. And there's going to be a ton of vendors and people. And we actually, with the Hanging with Web team, we're going to be on stage. At one of the stages down there. So more details coming your way as soon as we get to them. Simon, take it away. Your best. I know I put you on the spot, so we're hoping for the best. Cross fingers. Go for it.
It's all still waiting for you. The Fields of Trenzalore, the Fall of the 11th, and the question. The first question that must never be answered. Hidden in plain sight. The question you've been running from all your life. Doctor Who. Doctor Who. Doctor Who.
That is sweet. I'm already kicking out over here. Yes.
I hope
I had to remember to unmute. I was like, ah!
Oh, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me at all. We'll take it there. Folks, keep listening to the Legend of the Traveling Tardis radio show, Krypton Radio, iTunes. Thank you, iHeartRadio, everybody, or everywhere you can go to listen to us. Thank you for joining us, Simon Fisher-Becker, actor. Keep an eye out for him on, I think it's Fisher-Becker.com, without the hyphen?
Fisher-Becker.info.
.info.
Yeah, without the hyphen.
Without the hyphen there.
And can I just quickly mention Hawk Chronicles? I play Agent Tony Simon. And you can get them on Spreaker and Mixcloud and everywhere else as well. So I appear in episode 103 onwards.
There you go. And all the for information on Simon will be in the links in the description below wherever you find us. Again, thank you, Simon. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Melanie. Thank you for joining us. Just stay tuned and continue to listen and become part of the legend.
Time to step back into the shadows.
And Dr. Song, in prison all her days?
Her days, yes, her nights. Well, that's between her and me, eh?
So many secrets, Doctor. I'll help you keep them, of course.
Well, you're not exactly going anywhere, are you?
But you're a fool, nonetheless. It's all still waiting for you. The Fields of Trenzalore, the Fall of the 11th, and the question.
Goodbye, Dorium.
The first question... The question that must never be answered, hidden in plain sight. The question you've been running from all your life. Doctor Who. Doctor Who. Doctor Who.